welcome to the Priggya Arora Show, where we discuss law and entrepreneurship with people who have been there and done that. My name is Priggya Arora, founder of PA Legal and Intellectual Property Law Firm, and our guest for today is Miss Leah Steele. She is an ex-lawyer turned burnout and resilience trainer. So welcome, Leah, on the show.
Thank you so much, Priggya. I appreciate it.
Yeah, great. So Leah, we'll start with our fun and warm-up question, which is, what is one thing in life you cannot live without?
See, it's my coffee that's right in front of me right here. I may be a burnout coach, but if you want to talk to me before the second coffee, you're taking your life in your hands.
Wow, awesome. I love this answer. It is we all have, I think, some kind of addiction to some things. Like I also
Definitely.
feel like I can have 10 cups of tea a day and still feel like I haven't had tea today.
Exactly. So we all know what it's like. There are some days where it just doesn't matter how much caffeine you have.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to work except a nap, right?
Yeah, definitely. And for me, thing is like I can have coffee and I can just sleep. I do not feel like I've taken caffeine and I shouldn't sleep.
I love that.
So Leah, can you briefly tell us your story and how did you become the person you are today?
So I was born. No, we won't start with that. So my background, as you said, I was a lawyer. I practiced law for 12 years. So we've been talking about the time difference. I'm based in Bristol, UK. I didn't come from a legal background. None of my family were lawyers. In fact, I'm the first person in my family to go to university. And I studied my undergraduate degree and my postgraduate degree. Law is a competitive field. It's quite difficult at times. And so I spent a long time working as a paralegal, so an unqualified. I'd done my postgrad, but wasn't yet qualified as a solicitor. And I spent 12 years altogether in law, 6 of them as a paralegal, 6 as a qualified lawyer. And it was tough. It was really tough. I worked long hours. I worked in some very demanding areas of law. So my specialisms were mental capacity. So contentious probate, when somebody's died and there's a family in dispute. What we call court of protection here. So when somebody's lost capacity to manage their financial affairs or they need assistance, and people who were paying for care. So elderly family members going into care homes. So all of those areas had real emotion, a lot of emotional baggage, a lot of weight behind them. There's a lot of disputes around them. And I'm like a little emotional sponge. So I was soaking it all up and helping everybody else, but there was nowhere for it to go for me. So back in 2014, I'd been qualified for a couple of years. And unfortunately, my mum was ill and then she died quite suddenly. And I was 30. I didn't really know how to deal with it. I was working with the recently bereaved. You'd think that would give me a clue. And I was really struggling. I was exhausted all the time, getting brain fog, really struggling with my words, which is terrifying when you're a litigation lawyer. If you're sitting there and you just can't draft because your body is so exhausted, it just wants you to stop. And I kept experiencing all these symptoms. And I was sitting in the toilets crying one day, Googling my symptoms, never do that. And I came across this phrase burnout. And I suddenly realized that was what was going on with me. The more I read about it, the more sense it made. But back in 2013, 2014, we didn't really talk about it. So I started experimenting with myself, like Frankenstein and the monster. And what then developed was me realizing this was something that we needed to talk about a lot more in law. That if we want brilliant people to do brilliant jobs, we have to be able to discuss where it goes wrong and make it more sustainable for them. So I ran the business for a couple of years in the evenings and weekends whilst I was working as a court of protection lawyer. Those were some long days. There was a lot of inspiration there. And now what I do is work with individuals and with businesses to help them, because I truly believe lawyers, teachers, medical professionals, we need these brilliant people doing amazing jobs. And I basically want them to be able to do their jobs without work being some kind of form of self-harm all of the time.
Wow.
So that's where I came from. And that's how I've gotten to where I am today.
So, Leah, I think, the fields like law, specifically law, because I am also from this industry, I feel like it is taken as granted. Like if it is a burnout, it's normal. Like maybe if it's a burnout, someone will say to you, take a 2-day break and then jump back again. But I think that is not an option. We need to be stable mentally throughout our career. We can't just take breaks and come back, or sabbaticals and come back. I think we just have to find other options, and how we can sustain our lifestyle in a better way.
Exactly. And actually, that is advice that people get a lot. Oh, you're really struggling. Take a day off. What do you think a day is going to do? Because if you can take a day off and you are recovered, even if you can take a week's holiday and you're recovered, you're back to normal, that wasn't burnout. That might have been exhaustion or illness, but it isn't burnout, because burnout is chronic workplace stress that isn't successfully managed. It's over a significant period of time. And when you think about the stressors that we experience as lawyers, chronic workplace stress is there in the definition. I really upset people with this one. But when I'm delivering corporate trainings, I say, okay, so let's go for the most basic chronic workplace stress. Who here over the last month has cleared all of their work and has been able to sit at their desk twiddling their thumbs for 5 minutes or more? And of course, everybody laughs, because that's not the way we work. But that right there is chronic workplace stress. If you're leaving the office each day knowing, I didn't finish everything, I've still got more to catch up on, this is what's happening the next day, it's not resolving. So, yeah.
So Leah, this is so relatable. I left my job. I left it around 3 years back. And when I left my job, my boss asked me, like, are you joining some other law firm? What are you doing? What are your plans? I said, I don't know. I just want to quit my job and probably start my own business. I do not have anything in mind. I think that is the only place where I'll be happy. I just don't want to work for anybody.
Yeah, and so many people do this. So here in England and Wales at the moment, we're seeing a massive rise of the consultancy model, where people aren't quite, so they're self-employed, but they're working within a collective. So it's like a hybrid between traditional partnership and being self-employed fully. And we're seeing a rise in this, and a lot of people are saying, well, this is the answer. I don't know if you've noticed, but the personality type of a lawyer, we don't tend to be laid back and chilled. We don't tend to just shrug off our responsibilities easily.
Yeah.
So when we've got that internalized demand for perfection, to achieve, to go above and beyond, you couple that with them being self-employed and the need to put food on the table each month, and actually that can make it worse rather than better. And so that's why I get quite frustrated. There's so many people that my worst message is when somebody messages me on LinkedIn and says, I've been following what you've been doing for so long, I really appreciate it, I've quit my job today. And I go, oh God, because it's not about the external necessarily, it's about the external and how we respond to it, right?
Correct. So I think what you have just shared is very, very true. Unless we work on ourselves, like we have to take that time out to work on ourselves internally, physically, both the aspects, like mental and physical, both the aspects. And once we are so strong mentally, emotionally, physically, I think it's just heights, and we have to develop systems and processes around ourselves, like what we feel is good and what we feel is good for our people, and probably work on that path.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. I always say that burnout is a systemic issue that gives rise to symptoms in individuals.
Correct.
Because it's about the whole system, but we can't revolutionize that overnight. We've still got to persuade some people. And so what we do is we start with ourselves and expand it out. Wow. We can't fix the problem of burnout by ourselves, but we can make it a lot easier on ourselves. We can get the support systems in place. And then we've got the right people who are resilient, who have the understanding, and will be able to stick around for the long time to make the changes for other people as well.
Wow.
That's my plan to take over the world anyway.
I love the idea, like start with self and then expand it to people around you. Awesome.
Yeah.
Leah, there are, I'm sure that a lot of people would come to you thinking they want to switch careers, or is it okay to switch careers if I am at a bad place? For example, you switched your career from law to a trainer. So what advice do you think is correct for those kind of people? Is it okay to switch career at any point in life, or whatever
Yeah.
is your take on this?
Of course it's okay to switch. The caveat that I put in place for this is we want you to be switching because it's something you're moving towards and something that you want to do, not that something you're running away from. So the example that you gave, saying to your boss, I don't know what I want to do, I just know I can't be here anymore. It sounds judgmental when I say it this way, but it's the running away from. It's the I just can't be here anymore. What we want is people who are doing the work that they want to be doing in a way that is healthy and sustainable. I speak to a lot of people who are at that point of going, I'm just going to quit. I don't know what I'm going to do, or I think this will be better for me. We need to make sure that that's the case. And we've got to make sure it's sustainable, because you've been through it too. Self-employed life is not easy. If you come into this and you're already dragging your heels because you're exhausted and you've got a whole load of baggage from where you've worked before, it's going to make it even tougher. So start with where you are. Obviously, we've all got to take care of ourselves. And if you're in such a toxic environment that it is just not possible for you to stay there and be in any way healthy, then absolutely leave. But before you decide to change everything, let's do some of that work first and make sure that what you're going through is going to be better rather than a repeat of what you've experienced before with more instability.
Yeah, I think then it all falls back to whether you have worked on yourself or not. If you have worked for a substantial point of time on yourself, then you have the confidence with you that, okay, if I'm quitting this job, I'll be able to do something else or create something else without hampering my freedom or stability, or without getting that work pressure again. So I think that amount of work on yourself is required.
I think so. I think looking back at my early days of being self-employed, I had this crossover period for nearly 2 years where I was working in law and doing my business outside because I wanted the proof of concept. I wanted to know it worked. I wanted to know that I wasn't making things worse for people. And that for me was necessary because I can't say to anybody hand on heart, yes, you can deal with burnout issues. Oh, but I didn't. I actually left my job in order to fix them. That's no good. But I think for anybody who's starting self-employed life or changing career, there has to be that stop point. There has to be that consideration, because how often do we get the opportunity to actually stop and reflect and get support? Usually we're just do, get everything done, right?
Yeah.
And looking back, there are things I would have done differently, definitely. But I'm glad at least that I had the opportunity to have that support. And I know a lot of people don't. So that's what I'd like to say more of.
Wow. So, Leah, we just spoke about the individuals and self a lot. So can you tell us what are the steps which organizations can take to help out their employees? Like, I think it is very important for the organizations that their employees are at peace and they are happy in the workplace. So is there any steps you can recommend to organizations, whatever they can do?
So many. So often organizations will try and fix a problem by looking for existing solutions.
Yeah.
If the existing solutions worked, we wouldn't still have the problem, right? And so they have to step outside of the current paradigm. They have to step away from what they've been doing. So I see a lot of firms who will offer a fruit basket. They'll do I've heard about one place recently that's doing a sports day. The staff, bring them all together, because that's supposed to be well-being. That's a jolly. It's not going to fix well-being. When we're talking about well-being, it's through the entire fabric of the business. So we are talking about your policies and procedures, how supportive you are to people. What functions do you have that when people are struggling, they can access support? Is it, for example, we hear this a lot with businesses, we have an open door policy. Come and tell us if there are any problems. Great, you've got an open door. How many people are walking through it each day?
Yeah.
Are they doing it, or are you just paying lip service? So bearing in mind, it's 77, according to Deloitte's 2021 study, it's 77% of employees that have experienced burnout in their current job. And the biggest cost for businesses is presenteeism. 49% of their loss of productivity and profit is due to presenteeism, which is a huge overlap with burnout: exhaustion, depletion, negativity, disengagement, reduced professional efficacy. So businesses have a real impetus. They need to improve because it's better productivity and profitability for them. It's less staff turnover, it's less absenteeism, and it's increased profit. So we start with presenteeism because it's the biggest slice. What can we do to make sure that people aren't exhausted? What can we do to make sure that they're engaged, and how can they access support? And that means shifting from reactive policies, here's a number that you can call, walk through our door if you've got a problem, to something that's more proactive. Are we polling staff to ask what's going on with them? Are we developing training plans that are bespoke to the people in the teams? Are we offering them what they want? Are we asking them what they want? Or are we just waiting for them? And so that's the biggest thing, is a shift from reactive to proactive. Asking, engaging, being okay with not having gotten it right. It's huge, terrifying. Lawyers are not great at that. We have big egos. But making that shift and then actually following up, because how many times have you told somebody what you need and they've gone, yeah, well, here's a cup of coffee, here's a fruit basket, I'm telling you what I need and you're not responding to it appropriately. That breaks down trust and confidence between management and staff.
Yeah.
And that means that they're going to leave. So engage, ask, be proactive, respond appropriately to their needs, and make it safe for people to speak up. At that point, you've then got this brilliant engaged workforce that can tell you their problems, and you're going to be so much more profitable.
Correct. I think that is so true, because it's my personal experience from what I have seen. In large organizations, what happens is there is so much fear from the top management to the lower management that they're not able to engage or even ask what they need. Like, for example, if we require 2 hours extra for completing the work, it would be very difficult to ask for that. And in that fear, people will be like, okay, we'll spend 2 hours extra and complete the work instead of listening to our bosses shouting or team leaders shouting and things like that.
Yeah.
So I think this engagement friendly environment where a team in true sense is there is very, very important. And freedom to share, I think that is the most important thing which people require.
Yeah, it comes down to a concept called psychological safety, where I feel free to speak up without fear of loss of reputation, my job, my status, my respect. And if you can do that within a team, you're golden, because they will speak up, they will tell you when things aren't working, they will ask for what they need. And we've then got the whole system working brilliantly, instead of, the car is built, the doors are on, but nobody's started the engine yet, because no one has the energy to do it. So that's a mixed metaphor, but yeah.
I love the term psychological safety, right? Wow.
Yeah, there's some books into it. It's a huge issue for engaging employees, because if I can't say to you, hey, I think there's a problem here, I'm not psychologically safe. It also means I'm not going to tell you how we can improve systems. I'm not going to help you refine anything, increase our productivity, reduce our overheads. It's all part of the same question, really.
Wow, awesome. I think that is an interesting concept of psychological safety. So I'll recommend everybody to read it, and I'll also read it myself.
Yeah.
So Leah, now I want you to share something from your personal experience. Like you mentioned that some of the HR policies left you astounded. So what were they? Were they in good sense or the bad sense, or what? If you can share the story, I think that it helps the listeners to know that okay, we all go through the same kind of incidents in our lives.
So, which one to start with? That is the question. I think, so I've already touched on this one, but I think it's worth expanding on. A lot of firms, a lot of businesses, when they want to talk about employee well-being, they give something. So a fruit basket. I've worked at firms where we've had a fruit basket delivered, where we are told to get engaged in corporate social responsibility, so getting engaged in charities, which means I have to take time out of my billable work to go and do something for free for other people. And usually it involved baking a cake, where I've had to pay to buy the ingredients, bake the cake, and then have to pay to buy a slice of it. And those kinds of policies are often embedded within well-being.
Yeah.
We will give you time off. We will give you a bonus. We will give you extra things. If they don't go to the heart of what is going on with the staff, if they're not actually helpful, then I call them a glittered turd, because what they are is a distraction.
Correct.
They are bright and shiny. Look at this, look over here. Ignore the mess in the corner and look over here at what's brilliant. And those policies, the real kicker with them is they are so well intentioned. They are meant to be helpful, to be improvement. And I've had corporate clients start working with me and they say, don't tell us off, but we did. We bought like a fruit basket for everybody, and then we sent some gifts to people's home addresses. And I said, I've got no problem with that. You were trying. What you were lacking was asking them what they needed and delivering on that.
Correct.
It's like, it's asking a starving person what they need and saying, well, you don't actually need a sandwich. What you need is to have some self-respect. No, I don't. I need a sandwich right now. I really need a sandwich. And so those policies, I love them because they're well-intentioned. It shows that the team are thinking, that they want to do more, but they're not getting it quite right. And so what they're doing is wasting their time, their money, and their employees' goodwill. And it can be quite destructive. I've worked in businesses where we've been brought our £1 chocolate Easter eggs, where we were given a red rose on Valentine's Day, but it didn't help when I was working 3 hours overtime a day to keep on top of the workload, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it is very, very relatable. I think many law firms or probably bigger organizations do that. Like, okay, you have to work till 12 o'clock at night, but a burger cannot compensate with that.
Exactly. And it just shows we're trying to do something, but we don't really know what it is.
Yeah.
And it feels very much like a child with a toy. I don't know how to deal with this. Here's something. Here's a pasta picture. And it breaks my heart because it shows that everybody's trying.
Correct.
It's just not having the right impact. And so that's where I get to take everybody back, have a little step back, let's reflect, let's ask some questions and do it differently.
I don't want to work till 12 a.m. in the night.
No, exactly. How can we change that? We can't. Right. Well, in that case, let's scrap the whole concept of well-being. Don't pretend that you're doing something that you're not. Because well-being, like I said, it's woven through the fabric of everything. It's how we support people, how we create resilience and sustainability and continuity in the business and the people. And well-being is part of that. It's not a thing that we put on top. It's not the cherry on top of the sundae. It's the whole meal.
Yeah.
We're both hungry, aren't we?
Yeah. So I think that was an interesting conversation. So Leah, now can you tell us some probably personal steps that you take to keep yourself satisfied and fulfilled and away from the burnout?
Okay. It is tricky, and I am always straight and upfront with this. I run my own business. It means I do sometimes have to work long hours, that I do have to go beyond my limits at times. But the first thing is being more aware of what my limits are. We are really good. I say as lawyers, we're really good at living from the neck up. We are thinking, we are planning, we are playing these chess games that we do in litigation, and we completely ignore what's going on with our body, what our needs are, what our requirements are. So paying more attention to that, taking just reflecting. I ask 4 questions in corporate trainings, which is what's going well, what isn't going so well, what am I missing, and what do I need?
Yeah.
If we can ask that of ourselves a couple of times a day, for example, you and I are both using analogies that are all about food, we probably want to go have something to eat after this.
Yeah.
But just reflecting on that, because most lawyers that I know will sit at their desk not realizing that they're hungry, tired, thirsty, and have needed the toilet for the last 3 hours, and they're jiggling in their seat. So that's the first thing, is becoming more aware and more reflection, more paying attention to what's going on with me and what I need.
Yeah.
The second thing is to not be afraid of the long hours, but to ask, why am I doing it?
Correct.
Am I doing the long hours because I'm scared, because I need to, because I'm desperate to catch up? Or am I doing the long hours because I'm enjoying what I'm involved in?
Yeah.
And you don't always have to enjoy what you're doing. But if it's aimed at a positive outcome and you're engaged in that outcome, that's good enough too. None of us really like doing admin, but it's necessary to run a business, right? So don't be scared of the long hours, but make sure that you've got that balance, that reflection. You're asking what's going on. That for me is key, and being aware of my amber flags. So being aware of when I've gone a little bit beyond my limits. I'm not in red flag, terrible, oh my God, stop territory, but I'm just a bit beyond my limits and I need to bring it back a bit. So for me, it would be, I'm not sleeping very well. I'm drinking more than 3 coffees a day. All these things. So just be aware of the spectrum.
Yeah.
So instead of getting right to the end, having fallen off, quit your job, run away to Bali, whatever it might be, instead we can just bring it back a little bit and we can be that ebb and flow instead. That's more sustainable for me.
I think, Leah, it's wonderful. From this conversation, what I got is like, if we know ourselves, our needs, our wants, our feelings, probably we'll be able to take better decisions of what we want or in which direction we want to move forward. Sometimes it's okay to work till late night or do some extra hours, but then if we know why we are doing it, we'll either do with joy or we'll do it with fear. So we'll have to figure out, like, either we are doing it with joy or fear. Is there any hope, or is there just fear?
Yeah.
So I think it is
Exactly.
and if there is happiness, there is hope, there is fun, it's okay. But if we are doing it in fear, probably we can change our direction and speak to someone or find out another way of doing it.
Yeah, exactly that. So many of us are running in fear the whole time. And it's really terrifying. But I think it's a case of, if we can remember that whatever you're doing, particularly as lawyers, but in any industry, you, the individual, are the product. Without your brain and your knowledge and your expertise, none of it's happening.
Correct.
You wouldn't leave your laptop on without charge and expect it to work. You don't drive your car without occasionally checking you've got fuel and oil in it.
Yeah.
Why do we do that to ourselves? And so if we treat ourselves as the product and ask, what can we do to do the best work that we can, that is going to be more comprehensive, it's going to be more sustainable, and it's going to be more enjoyable.
Wow. And that is all we want.
Exactly.
So, Leah, now coming to our rapid fire round, answer these 3 questions very quickly. And this is our 2-1 rapid fire round. So 3 things in life you're grateful for.
Coffee, chocolate, and good books.
Wow. Coffee, chocolate, and good books. I love the answer. Two traits you think are useful for a legal career.
The ability to say no, and the ability to have a poker face.
Wow, that's interesting. Like, say no and make a poker face. People will be confused, like, why?
Just no.
So Leah, one aspiration that you have for the future.
The aspiration I have for the future is to be able to do myself out of a job, to get to the point where people don't need to come to me.
Wow.
And I can just go and grow veggies and lie on a sofa somewhere. I think it'll take me a while, but I'm hopeful that we can improve the industry to the point that it's more sustainable and less harmful for people.
Yeah, even I think it happens like the whole industry becomes very, very engaged and fun.
I hope so.
Yeah. So lastly, Leah, can you share some key takeaways for young legal entrepreneurs and lawyers?
So the number one thing has to be what we've just said, which is remember that you are the product. You need everything that you need, regardless of your self-judgment, your shame, your blame, what other people tell you. You need what you need to do the best job you can. Start with that. The other thing that I would say is this is a tough industry, and we get told all of the time that that somehow by osmosis or just I don't know, by waking up one day and having this stuff in our head that we're supposed to be able to know everything and do everything. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say, I don't know, I'm going to have to find out. And if everybody was great at this stuff already, everybody would be doing it. So give yourself the credit that it's okay not to know stuff. It's okay to be able to ask other people, to go to experts. We do this professionally all the time. We refer out to other people. I was a solicitor, I instructed barristers. And yet when it comes to ourselves, we close down and we think, no, that's not possible. I should know it all myself. I should be able to do it all myself. And it's just not possible. I know we've all been told that we can have it all and do it all and be it all. I don't believe that's true. I think we need to know when we are beyond our limits, when we need to learn something new, or when we need help with something. And so make that normal.
Wow. So understand your needs and make it normal to ask for help. I think that is the important thing. Very rightly said. I think not only lawyers, everybody, they feel a kind of fear when they make demands, especially when they ask for help. But it is really important. You can't do everything yourself. Like if I consider myself, I can't do admin, legal work, podcast, managing team, managing accounts, everything, finance, then cases, everything I can't do myself. I need people for that. In the same way, if I need something, I can ask for help. So I think it is a very important takeaway.
Perfect.
So thank you, Leah, for giving your time and for your willingness to share. I'm sure the audience is going to love this episode.
Thank you so much. Thank you for asking me.
Hey there. Thank you for attending today's session. If you enjoyed today's session, do follow our channel and consider sharing it with a friend. My name is Priggya Arora, daughter of inspiring parents, alumna of IIT Kharagpur, engineer turned lawyer and entrepreneur, and now founder of PA Legal, where we help creators and innovators protect their intellectual property. Thank you.